economic solution hiding in plain sight. The crisis of economic boom and bust explained. Economic boom and bust in the Trinidad and Tobago context. The economic solution hiding in plain sight. The reader is first invited to have a look at the vacant or underutilized lots in one's neighborhood or anywhere in the country when one is moving around. Is there a correlation between these vacancies and this inability for the working man to adequately provide for himself and his family? We are very concerned about current or future prospects, but could the solution to this dilemma of persistent poverty or wages without purchasing power lie in the utilization and optimization of that which literally lies under our feet? Let's examine this. Everything from the optimal utilization of the country's capital stock, as well as its human resource, is dependent upon the full use of its lands of value. Human habitation and wealth production invariably takes place on these lands, and in a simplistic and often overlooked way, all societies depend upon the production of goods and services through the age-old formula of combining skilled and unskilled labor and individual and communal capital, both with lands of value. Any deficiency or shortfall in the application of any of these, and we have the deficiencies of poverty that we observe today. This economic law that we have either ignored or not adequately followed through upon. The need to go back to this basic economic law regarding land, labor, and capital has never been more urgent, and our university professors, our technocrats, and our politicians would do well to heed this call. When land, labor, and capital are not optimally employed, there is a decrease in the gross national product, and this shows itself as collapse or liquidation of business at the margin. There is then a consequent reduction in the tax take and less export of goods and services. Pressure on the foreign currency reserve follows as the cost of imports rise. Government borrowings rise as earnings from foreign exchange drop. And there is then an increase in social security expenditure as government seeks to provide for the burgeoning unemployed as well as the working poor. In a general sense, both individual and government find themselves living beyond their means, with spending exceeding real earnings in both cases. With the rise in imports, interest rates also rise, not only because of falling local production, but also because of incipient currency devaluation, as rising black market prices dictate the true level of the purchasing power of the local currency. When interest rates become too high, it has a deleterious effect on the formation and continuing viability of business, and hence the vicious cycle of business failure and labor retrenchment is perpetuated. This then is the vicious cycle when the factors of production are not optimally employed. The crisis of economic boom and bust explained. The cycle of boom and bust that all countries face is largely due to availability of inexpensive supply of either of the three factors of production: land, labor, or capital. When land is cheap, or when labor or capital is inexpensive compared to the others, this normally facilitates a disequilibrium in the production of goods and services, and the reduction or recession is the result. To expand on this, When labor is inexpensive, employment and production go up, which causes the demand for land to go up as well, particularly near population centers. This incipient demand gathers speed, and land values rise to levels that outstrip ability of businesses and individuals to pay. And thereafter, there is a check on the growth and sustainability of activity. Meanwhile, there is no commensurate rise in wages as compared to land values, so that the general conditions of inequity persist, checking or curtailing the means of the average wage or salary earner to acquire the goods and services that he desires. When land is cheap, the same phenomenon is noticed, whereby production flourishes, creating the need or demand for more lands of value. This demand causes land values to rise to the point again where its price far outstrips ability to pay, leading to a checking or cutting back of production until such time that the inequitable conditions subside. When capital is cheap, as was the case prior to the US and the worldwide recession of 2008-2009, the buildup of land values was in place at the time, creating the familiar disequilibrium that stopped growth in the economies, creating almost depression conditions before the developed countries bailed out their major players with a view to restarting production. This equilibrium conditions, however, had taken a long time to subside, and only in 2011 we began to see the restart of production in earnest. These then are the salient reasons for the cycles of boom and bust. Economic boom and bust in the Trinidad and Tobago context. In the Trinidad and Tobago context, its three energy windfalls have led to similar circumstances when a supply of cheap capital became available in every instance, and thus inducing a rise in land values, so that when the windfall subsided, boom and bust conditions prevailed. In these boom conditions, too much capital or money was chasing too few goods and services, creating the cliched excessive inflationary conditions, with prices outstripping wages. In Trinidad and Tobago, there has been three discernible recessionary periods following these, which were 1962 to 1970, 1986 to 1993, and the last 2008 to 2011. In all cases, equilibrium between land values, labor, and capital took or is taking a long time to re-establish. Boom and bust conditions are phenomena observed in all countries, whether developed or developing. As an aside, countries in the northwestern hemisphere have developed rather more efficiently over the millennia because they have brought the factors together more efficiently than countries in, say, the eastern and southern hemisphere. Wherever there is great wealth produced, know that the factors of production have combined efficiently, and wherever there is great poverty, the opposite is true. This being the case, all countries still experience perennial boom and bust conditions because of the gross disequilibrium that ensues when any of the factors become cheaply available. Further examination of the factors of production reveal that the land and capital factors are notably passive in nature, and the labor factor is most active. Based on needs and desires, labor has to seek out those inactive resources of land and capital to have these needs and desires fulfilled. Labor then can be defined as that focused on specific energy, skilled as well as unskilled, that that is applied by all human beings to meet their inherent needs and wants. Land is that inactive factor of production in the form of space or natural resource, which is worked upon by skilled or unskilled labor to produce goods and services. Capital is the stored product of labor, and capital is also that factor that can be used in the future to produce more goods and services. Capital can be in the form of buildings, roads, utilities, equipment, machinery, etc., or simply money, which are all geared towards future use. The more capital that is produced by any country is the more developed it can be. Capital can be inherited individually or collectively. When lots of it is inherited individually, that individual is said to be rich. When lots of it is inherited collectively, that collective or country is said to be well off. The purpose of a well-organized society is to maximize the production of capital as far as the individual, all individuals, and collectives are concerned. The problem with all societies is that there is not in place that mechanism that will allow for this, so that whilst some societies may be well off, there is great disparity in wealth between individuals. The majority of countries, there is not enough level of organization that allows for adequate production of capital, and whatever wealth is created, there is much disparity between the rich and the poor. You can get more on this subject in our flagship course called The Nature of Society by going to the link in my profile or description.